Hey everyone, welcome to Between the Lines with Chris Curran. I am here with former New Jersey Jackal, Batboy Montclair State alum, inspirational author and speaker, sports media pro, and made appearances on USA Today and Fox 5, Billy the Batboy Pinckney.
There we go. CC, I
How's it going,
appreciate it.
man?
What an intro. What an intro. I appreciate it. Thank you. And it's great to see you. Great to talk to you. It's been a while. It's been a while. The last time we spoke was, well, we text often, but the
Yeah,
last time we saw each other it was like, what, over 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It was
yeah.
a long time ago. Feels like yesterday, but it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. I was joking with you that it feels like yesterday until I realized you have facial hair. because no, you put out such great content that I've literally followed everything you've done. So it feels like I never left New Jersey.
Right.
It feels like I never left because we'll always text. You're always one of the first people to text me, Happy Father's Day, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas. Like, you're always there, man. And it's something I always appreciate. You're someone who's never just disappeared with everything that you've achieved and everything you still strive to be, man. And I appreciate that. I think everyone just needs to know that.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. That's one of the things I try to do is just maintain those relationships. The guys who have impacted me, I'm sure I would say this regardless at some point during the show, but I'll say it now that you're one of the favorite guys I've ever worked with, one of the favorite players who welcomed me into that clubhouse at the professional level. I was 11 years old, just stepping in that clubhouse for the first time, and you were there with a smile greeting me, wanted me there in that clubhouse when you didn't have to, but you wanted me there, and we had a great group in that clubhouse in 2013. And, guys like yourself are inspirational figures for the stuff that I'm doing now, and guys who have taught me a lot just by your actions. You talk about leading by example. One of the books that I published is geared towards that. And you're one of those guys who have led by example day in and day out when you were playing baseball. And that's what I really appreciate. And I try to just keep those relationships alive. And I'm someone who I hate transactional relationships. I hate just, I'm doing business with somebody and that's it. Like I like to create more of a long-term, lifelong relationship with somebody that I really care. I care how you're doing. I care how family is. I care how your work is going. And no, it's great that we're doing this. And all these years later, over a decade, and it's a special thing.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot, especially in some of the last couple years that I was playing. It's easy. I'm sure you've, we were joking about it too, that you know more about professional baseball than dang near everyone you speak to because you've been around so much of it. You've seen every single story. So yeah, we were joking about how you've heard every single story of I got messed over because of this and this should have happened. And as just athletes, we all have it. And you've just been able to kind of absorb all the information and you've turned it into these amazing books.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's interesting because when you're a bat boy, when you're a young kid, I didn't talk a whole lot. I was kind of shy growing up too, but I was just in the corner of that dugout. I felt welcome. I felt part of the team. And so I just felt comfortable being myself. But then you're absorbing everything. You see what's going on. You see not only the game happening on the field, but you hear the conversations. You hear the chatter in the dugout. You hear the manager talking to the pitching coach. They're going over certain things. And then in the clubhouse, that's a whole nother thing where you're one of the guys. You feel like you're one of the players. And I had like 25 older brothers each year, it seemed like. And that's it was a really fun thing to be a part of. And you just learn a lot. You learn a lot of lessons. You hear the stories. Some players are bitter because they rather be in affiliated baseball. They'd rather be in AA, AAA, or even the big leagues. And a lot of guys had the talent to be there. And due to certain situations, unlucky breaks, things like that, it sometimes didn't work out for a lot of players. But you learn a lot from them. You learn a lot from those guys. And sometimes people don't realize the kind of impact that they're having. When you're playing, who knows if you knew the impact you'd be having on me, or if you knew the impact you'd have on other kids signing autographs. That stuff goes a long way.
Yeah. No, that was one of the best parts about having you in the locker room too, is because everyone had the general understanding that you were absorbing everything. You were learning the lifestyle, the mentality, the routines of these professional baseball players, and you were still playing yourself. So it was exciting for us knowing that, man, he's going to absorb this stuff and then go apply it into your area, because you weren't someone who was just being a bat boy.
Mhm.
Like, it didn't take long for many of the pros to then say, no, Billy's a pro too. Not
Mhm.
only were you good at what you were doing, but you were literally one of the guys at like 11.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So you were part of the team. You were part of the ship of what we were doing.
Right.
And it's amazing, and it's also a reminder of how big the game can be, to see
Sure.
you there and then remind us every single day after a bat at bat, like, certain things don't matter, man.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just
You
showing up
know?
with that energy, with the smile on your face, and just trying to be just a light in that environment and keep things a little bit light when, things happen. It's a tough stretch, losing streak, whatever it might be. There's still other ways to still not just sulk in that downtime. And no,
Yeah.
it was great. Just feeling part of the team. And man, you think back to all those great memories and experiences and everything.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had we had some great moments down there, and no, it was definitely pretty special. And yeah, I just think about shagging baseballs,
Yeah.
getting out in the outfield and all that. The ball's pulling me down because it's so heavy because I'm young. Like some crazy stuff. But that's
Oh,
how you learn the game, and I want to make sure I was there every game, regardless of if I was actually the bat boy that game, because there were many games where I wasn't in the schedule, but I still want to show up early. I want to be there at 2 o'clock, 2:30, and be out there shagging balls and just being in that environment. I didn't have to be there during those days, but I wanted to. I felt part of it,
yeah.
and it was really special to have that during those summers because I'm an only child, and I feel like it was special to just have those guys to be around during those few months there.
You know what's amazing? I didn't even know there was a schedule, because you were at like every game. So I always figured you were there. I was
Hmm.
like, no, it's
Right.
Billy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
he's part of the team. I didn't know if you were
Yeah,
working.
I
I didn't
wasn't.
know
I
if you were
wasn't
working
missing.
the late night or not.
You know,
But you were always there. You
it,
literally just told me. I was like, you didn't. What do you mean you had to be scheduled? I thought you
yeah.
were just
You know,
you were on the team to me.
It was
You
an
know?
intense thing. The role of a bat boy was intense back then. There were like 10 or 12 of us, and we had this whole schedule thing. It was very detailed, and people were fighting to get in there, especially for the playoffs. Everyone wanted to be the bat boy for the playoffs.
Oh man.
And I remember Wally, the clubhouse manager,
Yep.
he told me, show up whenever you want. You could do this whenever you want. That was one of my first days. So I show up the next day, even though I wasn't scheduled, ready to bat boy. And, I think it was Danny or David, one of the other bat boys at the time. They were like, yeah, like we got everything covered for today, but you're welcome to come and, go in the clubhouse or spend the night at the ballpark, do whatever you want. It was just, it felt like it was fitting. It felt really fitting. And I just felt called to do that.
It was such an unbelievable atmosphere for me as well, because
Yeah.
like many others, that was my first transition out of affiliate ball. You walk into this clubhouse of people who are already close, and I had never done that, because when I was first drafted to the Nationals, you go in there with an abundance of new people.
Mhm.
So you find someone else that's new, you stick with them, you have a new roommate, your whole team's basically new except for some of the people who maybe didn't break spring training and they're an extended. But that was my first time stepping into a clubhouse of other people who had already been there and other people who already had my story. And
Right.
the New Jersey Jackals was just something very special, because you had the Isaacs
Mhm.
and the Nick Jaraputos and a bunch of those guys who had just been very professional, very welcoming
Right.
into that environment. So it makes sense that even in your situation where maybe you weren't scheduled all the time, that it was always welcoming
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
you. It was home to you longer than everyone I know. you know
Right. Right.
you were there. You were the New Jersey Jackal to me. Like,
Yeah.
you
No,
know.
that's great. That's great. And it was great because it was indie ball and it wasn't something where the clubhouse is closed to everybody. Like, you can't get in there. Like, it was super strict. It wasn't like that. It was a little bit more laid back,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it was a professional environment where you have players there who played at some of the highest levels that this game has to offer. So you had a nice mix of both the laid back kind of feel, the winning mentality of, hey, we're out here to win each day, and then also the level of professionals that are in there. It was a perfect mix, especially for a kid wanting to get to know the game better and learn a lot. You might not have gotten that at certain other levels of maybe affiliated
Yeah.
ball where maybe things were a little bit more closed off. I don't know.
Yeah, they really were in many
Yeah.
ways. It's such a stick to the schedule, doing this, doing that. And one thing with the indie, it was very, there was, hey, you guys know to be out there at this time.
Yeah.
I think one thing I realized too is there was such a structure in affiliated ball, but when we moved to independent league, you were around people who wanted to be there, which is weird to say, but it's people who could have made the decision to go home and work
Right.
or still play professional and give it a chance. But with that being said, with like the experience that you had, can you fill us a little bit in about your baseball journey and then how it led up to even finding out about being the Batboy, and then kind of how it carried on from there? Like, what's your baseball journey been like?
Yeah, it was really just an average kid who wanted to play baseball, just a kid growing up, loving the game. And then once I got a little bit older, when I was around 10 years old or so, we were going to games in 2012 at Yogi Berra Stadium. And we asked one of the coaches, it was Ani Ramos, and we were asking him, hey, my dad and we were going down and said, hey, can he become a bat boy? How can he get involved? And he said, yeah, contact the front office in the off season and see if they can get you in and everything. And that's how it really happened. That's when I became a bat boy for the 2013 season. So I was just a little league baseball player and playing in a small town in New Jersey. And then the same town that I live in, across the other side of town, is where Yogi Berra Stadium is. And that's when I was able to become a bat boy for that year. And it ultimately was something that continued on for like 7 years. I was a bat boy about. So I it's funny, like towards the end, I was like, I really don't want to bat boy much anymore. I'm kind of doing media stuff too. And I'm helping the manager find players for the team. I don't know what to do. Too many hats I'm wearing. It's minor league baseball. We wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
But, before that, it was really just, getting involved as a bat boy, and then playing baseball in high school, and then college club ball at Montclair State, which is the campus that the Jackals played on. So that was my home. That was my little environment there, my second home. And, the tricky thing, we talked a little bit about it before, is that when you're around the professionals all the time and you learn so much from them about how to do things the right way, and then you're going back to whether it's your youth league or even high school, it was really high school at the time, and you see how things are, how things run and how things operate and how even you're treated. It was not a great situation, because I was treated so well by you guys and all the players I worked with. And then you deal with high school, in my case, which wasn't as much of a productive environment, wasn't really nurturing growth. And it was tricky to navigate that, because no one else there knew better. No one else there knew any better, because they didn't experience anything at the professional level before. And you're dealing with maybe teammates or coaches who are immature. Even if a coach has been there for 20 years, how things were conducted were not done in a professional way. So that was tricky, because you want to do things the right way, but at the same time, I was called uncoachable one time. Billy the Bat Boy was called uncoachable when I'm learning from the guys. I'm trying to be there early and learn from you guys, and trying to seek every way to learn and get better. But that's what happens sometimes, and a lot of kids quit at a young age because they're not having fun. They feel like it's work. Baseball's no longer that thing that they enjoyed. And I always want to keep that love for the game and that excitement that I first had when I stepped in that clubhouse with you guys for the first time.
Yeah.
That's something I always had in my mind. I want to keep that alive, because that's the kind of passion and energy that I know can really just push you through your career and just keep you excited each day. And when some kids that fire gets burnt out, that light is just gone, it's pretty sad, and kids no longer then want to play anymore. So that's a little bit of a long-winded answer of just a little bit of my journey, pushing through some of that adversity, and then being able to help inspire younger kids now based on the things that I've witnessed, the lessons I learned from you guys, and then seeing how we can continue to have kids play this game and not quit.
That's got to be so tough too, because as you've learned, not even just from professional baseball players, but professional coaches, professional trainers, professional staff within the building, whether that's people who are working on the field, that's people who are doing the promotions, the people up in the box, the media crew. You are running around picking everyone's brain. And then, yes, you're going back to this high school and maybe that coach is coaching there 10 to 20 years. But if you coach the same way with the same information for 20 years at the same level, you're also not going to progress.
Yeah.
20 years at one level isn't exactly the same as 5 years at this level, 2 years at this level, and you're consistently progressing to say, you know what, I'm only 2 years in here, but I've learned more in, in these 2 years than I did in 15 years over here.
Right.
And that's got to be tough on your part too, to see even your friends be talked to or coached in a particular way when you're like, Joe Calfapietra, Ani Ramos, Ed Ott, all of those professionals, they don't talk to people like that, and their resume is long of playing and coaching experience.
Yes. Yeah, that was tricky. That was definitely tricky. I'm like, I'm working with guys who coached or played at the big league level, played or coached at the AAA level, some of the highest levels, World Series champion in Ed Ott, guys who are just really legit dudes. And they're treating me so well and informing me about different situations in a professional manner. And then I go to high school and then it's like we're spoken down to. It's very, very poor communication. It was just so sad. It was such a difficult situation, and it's hard to even communicate with your teammates who just don't get it. They just don't get it. So you kind of you stand out and you separate yourself in that way, and it could be tricky because you might feel left out. You might feel a bit alone because no one else gets it. No one else gets you. They don't understand it. So that was part of that process of the separation, is when you're constantly seeking that information. The learning is a lifelong pursuit. No matter how old you are, you always got to keep evolving, keep learning. I don't care if you graduate college and then some people think that they're done. Like, oh, I graduated college, I got my degree, I'm done learning. The learning doesn't end. The learning never ends.
It never does. That's why I'm like, it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm serious. That like, you know more than us. When I look at it, because you can't think that you hit a certain level. So, you hit this level and everyone underneath you is underneath you, quote unquote. I think it's the same thing I deal with my son with the special needs community. It's the more you learn, the more you actually realize you don't know. The people who act like the biggest professionals, it's like you have so long to go before you think you're that guy. It's a little bit of humble pie that people should mix in there. And it's so tough too, because when I heard that throughout the years about your story and how that kind of happened, I'm like, to Billy? I'm like, he's the nicest guy in the world. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. But you know what? I feel like it was definitely, though, an important learning experience. And in a way, I'm fortunate that kind of stuff happened, because it ultimately led to the motivation and the fire lit under me to give back to the next generation and put the books together. Because who knows, if I didn't deal with some of that, maybe I would have just taken the lessons I learned from you guys and just maybe teach my kid one day, and that would be it. Who knows? And that would be great. But I feel like being able to go through that, interview a lot of players about these different topics, learn a lot, and then put it into these books, it could impact a variety of kids at a much deeper level. And this is the beginning of it. There's going to be many more years of putting out this kind of content and trying to help inspiring these players. And that's what I feel like part of my purpose is to do. So I think, some of it happens for a reason. Unfortunately, it's never fun to go through in the moment. It's never fun to deal with it. Just like injuries are not fun to deal with, but a lot of times they make you reflect a little bit and maybe appreciate those moments when you're out there a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure as you're going through it, you're not like, "I'm gonna write a book about this
Yeah,
one
yeah,
day."
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no.
Into a bunch of interviews on
Yeah.
USA Today and Fox News and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but yeah,
No.
it's crazy to see that because when you had announced kind of that you were doing books and it, it was crazy in the sense that I was so happy that you were doing it because I couldn't think of anyone else that was a better person and had so much experience in what they were doing. And you never seemed like the person at 10, 11, 12 to get information and run back and throw it in people's face.
Mhm.
So when you were announcing that you were doing the book and doing all these interviews, and I'm like, that is so genius because you had spent more time with more professional baseball players than me, than so many other people, even combined.
Right,
Just
yeah.
years of experience of picking everyone's mind.
Right, and that's the one thing I feel like it was impactful to a couple years after I worked with you during that first season in 2013 is when I started to interview some players. So I had to bring my phone and a little microphone. And I just talked to some players, and that I was at the time then 13 years old. And then I talked to more guys, and all these questions that I'd be asking them, they'd be giving me their responses. But then that goes in my memory bank. That goes.
Mhm.
It's like a deposit into my memory bank, and I have all these interviews recorded. So then, as the years go on, and 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, I'm like, man, I got all these interviews. I have all these great responses and information that I can turn this into something else. I could put this into a book. And that's when the first book, Passion Prevails, I released. And that was just a compilation of all these interviews, especially when the answer is related to advice for young players, how to deal with certain challenges, the pressures that come with the game, and the kinds of challenges that are inevitable while playing sports. And that helped me become a better player, helped me mentally, and ultimately, my goal is to help younger players as well. So I feel like when you ask a lot of questions to people and you interview them, that's one way for you to kind of become an expert as well, is just to ask the people who are really skilled in something the questions. And next thing you know, you have a lot of those answers.
Yeah, and when I think about it too, you had been around so many professionals of
Mhm.
any craft. It's very difficult to be a professional at anything.
Right.
But by you doing all these interviews with these players and coaches and just professional personnel, for you to then put it in a book is something just so amazing. Like you said, you had
Yeah.
all of this combined. What What was that process like of putting it to a book? 'Cause I know I'm
Yeah.
sure it hits your mind of, "I should do something with all of this." What led it into, "I should put it into a book? How do I put it into a book?"
Right.
How long
Right.
did it take? You're like,
Yeah.
how did that kinda stuff happen for you?
From the day I made the decision, it took about 10 months to get it done. I'd say it would have taken longer, but I had all the material. I had the majority of the material already because years and years of interviews that were conducted years prior, I already had. But it was really just a matter of transcribing everything, making sure that I format everything the right way. I used Amazon self-publishing to do it, and that was a nice way to do things efficiently and pretty quickly. It wasn't like I had to wait for a publishing company to do it.
Yeah.
But a lot of this happened in college, and I had a professor, Dr. Gilbert, who's a sports psychology professor, and he serves as one of my mentors essentially. And it's been special
Wow.
to learn a lot from him. And he told us on the first day, he said, "You got to do one of these things. You either got to write a book, break a world record, one of these things that are kind of outrageous, and that's going to set you apart." So I was thinking about that. I was thinking about all of those messages from the players that I had already on my computer. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book. I'll put my thoughts in it a little bit, but at the same time, I want to use a lot of the material I already captured because I felt like it made a lot of sense. Plus, I had that bit of motivation to do it from those experiences in high school. So I feel like it was a nice, I had everything I needed. I had that fire lit inside of me in order to execute it. Because some people, they might have an idea, but they just don't have that drive or that spark to go through with it. They don't have it. So that was
Mhm.
a little bit the fire that was lit for me to go and do that. And then I had the encouragement of my professor and of my family. They're always supporting me and what I'm doing, which is really
Yeah.
impactful. And that's what I ended up doing. It took a while, and I was in college at the time, so there's a lot of downtime. You're in classes, sometimes you tune things out because you know it's not useful, and you go and work on that while I'm there. I'm in between classes. There's an hour gap. I'm gonna work on my book while I eat some snack or something. So that was how I did it. It was a nice way to fill the time as well, those gaps, and it felt like I was productive with with the extra time that I had, and that was how it went. And then ultimately, after publishing that book, about a month or so later is when USA Today was interested in covering it and talking about some of these themes. And then this earlier this year is when the Fox had me on one of their shows
Yeah.
to talk about the children's books mainly. So that it's just how things have transpired, and there have been different things that have happened in between. I feel like it's pretty fitting given the experiences. So it's really special to just be doing this and just knowing there's a deeper meaning, a deeper impact that can be had with it.
You couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
That there are so many people who have the ideas. There really is. I mean, anyone can come up with a good idea. And the fact that even just because you had all that information just in your back pocket doesn't mean you would have done anything. Like you said, you could have just went off and maybe taught your kids someday.
Right.
But so many people are afraid to take that next step.
Mhm.
And, I applaud you so much for being the person who took that next step. Thank you. That's so important to the next generation, because the high school coaches, or not just that, but the people who had doubted you could have been right.
Mm.
They could have called you uncoachable, and you just done this and left, whether it's right or wrong. But for you to take that information, take that fire and say, no, look at all of this work. Look at all this information I put together. You've actually done something that's so amazing. And it made so much sense for me watching you just from the year in the dugout, in the locker room, to then becoming, over the next couple years, that young man that put all that information to work. When you actually announced it and actually did it, I was very thankful,
Yeah.
because
No.
you have such a weird, strange, authentic situation that other people don't have. But in so many other fields, it can die there.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
really can. Some people don't know that they have the blessing right in their hands, and they're like, well, when's it going to come? And
Yeah.
it's like, you've been given it.
Yeah.
This is where you take it on and share it with other people who may never experience it.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you, Cece. Yeah, it's challenging too. There are challenges even to this day. Like you're trying to figure things out. You're trying to see what the next best move is to make and
Hmm.
everything. And some people, they don't really see the kind of opportunity that they have in front of them. And some people, they waste their talent. A lot of people, I have a lot of friends who
Absolutely.
they could have some raw talent, and not just as an athlete, but in their life. Like they actually have certain abilities, but they get distracted too easily. They're
Hmm.
distracted by the other things in this world. They're distracted by living the college lifestyle and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a party guy. I don't do a lot of the things that a lot of college age kids have done. So
Hmm.
I was so locked in with this mission, these projects I was working on, and a lot of my summers growing up too, they were at the ballpark. I didn't really spend a lot of time on vacation or anything. You think of Memorial Day weekend, a lot of kids go to the beach and everything around here. I didn't have that. I was at the ballpark. I was focusing on working with the guys and everything. So I was kind of just brought up in that environment where it's go time. You're with the guys. You're working at the stadium, and that's the kind of mentality that I just carry through, not only when I was working for a professional team, but then on my own work too. And
Yeah.
I feel like when you have that purpose, when you're able to figure out something that means a lot to you, that can have an impact, the other stuff isn't as fun. The stuff that is fun are the things that have a pretty significant impact.
Yeah. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
You are. And at the end of the day, everyone's baseball career is going to be over with. and everyone's college party life is going to be over with. But what are you going to take from those experiences, those games that you've played, and everyone's going to have to find something else that they pour their time and energy and love into. I'm very fortunate. I love my job. I love my family, and now I love being able to do this, because not only through texting, I kind of get to use your information for
Yeah.
me in the
Yeah.
same sense, because it's weird to say it, but you are one of the people. It's very weird. It's not weird in the sense of me saying it is weird, but it's interesting how throughout your books you talk about learning from professionals.
Hmm.
But you're one of the people who made me want to start my podcast.
Wow.
As I started looking into it, I was thinking about it in like 2017, 2018,
Yeah.
that kind of time frame. And then time kind of went by. I had a son, COVID happened, and life happened.
Yeah.
And then I finally got back to it, and I saw some of your posts, and I'm like, he's still official. I'm like, he's crushing it, man. He's always doing it. And
Yeah.
then it was Gary V said something about the Jets, and he's talking
Yep.
about his entrepreneurial experience. And it was kind of one thing after another that kind of stemmed into stop making excuses.
Right.
And
Right.
it started with looking at one of your posts, and I'm like, he's still doing it. Like, he's still doing the social media, and
Right.
he's really putting his experience to the test.
Right.
And that was
Yeah.
one of the best parts. So that was another reason why I was excited to have you on, because I actually wanted to thank you
No.
for what you do, because it kind of got me out of my shell. Like you said earlier, you were a shy Batboy. I may not have seemed like it, but I was always kind of an introvert as a baseball player. Baseball feels different. You
Yeah.
can be you. You're not really judged. You can just live your life. But kind of off the field, I've always had that. I've always been
Right.
a little more quiet and a little bit more to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting.
So,
And I appreciate that. And that's the thing. When you're on that field, when you're in the clubhouse and everything, and you're on the ballpark and everything like that. You could be yourself. You could feel more open. I felt more relaxed and more at ease talking to you guys, because I felt like I was part of that. I felt like I
mhm.
belong there at the ballpark. And then when you're off the field or when you're away from that, you might be a little bit different. Like, who knows? It's an interesting thing, and it really was also just a matter of just getting after it and doing it, committing to this and content and social media and everything. And I feel like there's never going to be a good time. Your brain will always
Yeah.
find an excuse and say it's not the right time right now.
Yeah.
But you just got to start, and you started it, you've done it. And I was so happy when you reached out to me too, and you were saying you were doing this. I'm like, oh, I got to hop on this.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
so excited about it. Oh, this is great.
Oh man.
This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like,
Definitely.
I need to have him on here. I gotta talk to him, because I also wanted to thank you for what you didn't know you did at the
Yeah.
same time. But just I love your story and what you've done and what you continue to do. And I'm like that, for me, I joke about this, that the podcast is just a way for me to talk to people that I like
Yeah.
for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
gotcha, tricked
Yeah.
you.
No, it's great.
But
No.
it's crazy that in the time that we'll talk, you can find out so much more about people that you might not get into depth. And
Yeah.
you're one of the interesting people to me, just in the very short time that we spent with each other at the ballpark for the New Jersey Jackals. But we've texted and we've seen each other on social media, so it's like we've never left off.
Right. Right. No,
You know.
exactly. I love that. I love the fact that we are able to keep in touch, but also see pictures and posts that you're making with your son and your family and everything. And it's like you really, it's not like years ago, decades ago, when say our parents were growing up, where if you don't see somebody physically face to face, then you're not going
Yeah.
to see them.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to actually be there.
Exactly.
Now we can see people, and it feels like it wasn't as long ago,
Yeah.
and we're able to stay in touch a little bit better. So this is great, man. And I also want to show you this. This is a little surprise I want to show you. I figured this would be a good time. But we got
man.
the newest book in the Billy the Batboy children's book series is called Billy the Batboy Includes Others. Right there. This is the proof right here. So we got the not for resale right here on the front, because this is the first ever copy of it. And I was waiting to show you this, but we open up the page here. We got the dedication, and I want to read you the dedication right here.
Yes.
And it says, "This book is dedicated to Chris Curran and his son Cole. CC is one of my pro baseball buddies and was one of the first players to warmly welcome me into the clubhouse, instantly making me feel at home."
Oh,
So
cut it
that's
out.
the dedication right there.
Oh
And
man,
you know,
that is beautiful.
it's
Thank you,
also
man.
it's true. It's true. And guys like this, who's Ace Armstrong, that's the name of this character, who's helping Billy out, helping the kids out in the clubhouse. That's an example of the
Oh,
kind of guy you were back
cut
there.
it out.
So
That is beautiful, man.
yeah,
Thank you, dude. I'm honored. That is
yeah.
that's amazing.
No, absolutely. You deserve it. And I felt like it was really fitting. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. And I'm so happy that I was able to include you in that. And a lot of the inspiration, I'm telling you, a lot of the inspiration for the characters, for the conversations, when I close my eyes and just just run through different scenes in my head of what we were in, with the kind of clubhouse that we were in, but then also add a little bit to it. It's like
Yeah.
loosely based off of real events, and I'm able to easily just create dialogue and the kind of scenes that would help other kids and just be something that are realistic. And it was
That's
all real
amazing.
stuff. Yeah.
Ah, why'd you got to do that to me?
No. Save it for off
That's
camera.
amazing. I know.
So
That's
we'll be getting this out to you very soon. I'm gonna
Thank you,
send it
man.
out your
That
way.
is beautiful.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
absolutely. No,
I'm
for sure.
honored, man. That's
Yeah.
it's been great. It's been you've paid homage in many ways, and I try to do the same thing with what I'm doing, which is fitting because obviously I just told you,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, that just how everything. It's crazy how it works out. How you constantly can feed each other that positivity
Hmm.
to keep each other going and help each other to that next level. Because it's amazing how you can thank, like I said, you can thank so many professionals for helping you become who you are, and even some of the people who kind of drove you nuts to push you into the right direction. I've shared a story with you about someone who, you know, kind of drove me nuts in certain ways, and
Yeah.
it fuels you, and in certain ways you owe them almost as much as the people who have truly helped you, because
Yeah.
they light that fire underneath you from a different angle,
Right. Right.
and then it goes full circle,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden I'm watching you and you're helping me do the podcast.
Yeah.
So
It's incredible.
it's
Yeah.
amazing, man.
Now, you put good out there and it comes back around, and it's a small world, so you never know when you're gonna see people who you might have worked with a decade ago. So that's what it's all
Yeah.
about, just putting out good.
Oh man. No, you've always done it the right way. And you could tell your personality and your parents and how much. It's weird even asking you this, but how much have they supported you throughout this entire journey? Because I've seen them on TV with you. You know?
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, it's so funny because my dad was there at the Fox 5 taping when we recorded that segment, and my mom wasn't there for that. I didn't invite her for that one. She was kind
yeah,
of upset that she wasn't on that set with him back. It was for Father's Day, so they invited my
yeah,
dad to come with me, and she was joking around about it. We were all messing with her because she wasn't on the show, and my dad was, but no, they've been incredible. Just the support. You might remember my dad, waiting at the ballpark outside the clubhouse, standing there
absolutely, man.
late nights. He's got to get up early for work the next morning, but I'm in there making sure I sit there on that couch waiting for every guy to leave that clubhouse before I leave. It was crazy, and they supported me through all of this. And it's not an easy thing. Like this profession, this career is not a linear process.
Hmm.
It's up and down. Like there's not like a set course. Like if you're becoming a teacher, you know what you have to do to become a teacher. If you want
Yeah,
to become a doctor, even, you know that there are certain steps to take. For this, it's like you got to figure it out. Just figure it out. And there's not always a lot of clarity, but they've been incredibly supportive of everything that I've been doing. And I think back to those early days, carting me around at different ballparks, driving me everywhere, and it was really special because they were on board since the beginning. And if they weren't on board, who knows what I'd be doing right now? I'd probably be doing a job I wouldn't like.
yeah. It can be a lot tougher. It can be a lot tougher. Having a great support system it's crucial just to even have a chance.
Right. Right.
Right, to have people in your corner that can kind of, reinforce you that what you're doing is right and things take time. Especially like you said, because it's not linear. You
No.
don't get to exactly say if I do this, then that equals this. It's, you truly went through what every baseball player had to go through
Yeah.
without most people even seeing it. Like, there's not many Jeremy Barnes stories out there. There's not many of those that just, from the top down to the bottom, back to the top.
Hmm.
It's rare that you come across those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you get to experience as well, and it definitely shapes you
Sure.
as a person.
Yeah, and I feel like I've been able to understand the kind of grind that it was for you guys on the field
Yeah,
because I know I'm beginning to really understand the kind of toll it could take mentally trying to figure out things and just there's a lot of uncertainty when you're playing. There's a lot of uncertainty of, hey, am I gonna make it to this next level? Am I gonna get signed? Am I gonna get released? What's happening? And I feel like there's a mutual respect there too when I'm looking at you guys, I'm respecting you guys, but at the same time, the players who I've worked with, there's a respect back where they see that I'm grinding at something as well. I'm working
yeah,
on, I'm betting on myself to make it in a different part of this game, this different area, but that kind of the grind is still similar in a way.
it
So
is. No,
that's
100%. Because here's the thing that a lot of people may not notice. It doesn't matter if you have a number on the back of your jersey or not. You were there every single day with us. Like
yeah,
you said earlier, you weren't going on those summer vacations because you were at the
yeah,
ballparks. Like, yeah, we know because you were there with us.
right, right,
We were all spending those. You were spending that 5, 6, 7 hours away from your family with your other friends, your
yeah,
friends that were 25 and 30 years old,
yeah,
as we're all getting ready to go out there and, quote unquote, go to war with the other team.
hmm,
You were right there too. You
yeah,
had to experience all the highs and all the lows.
yep.
The losses, they weren't easier for you
No,
either. You know what I mean? You
they
know
weren't,
what
they
it's
weren't.
like. You know what it's like to be part of a championship team and a team that lost in the championship.
Yes,
I do
yes,
too.
I know.
It's
Yes.
it's
It
talk
was
about
tough,
polar
but
opposites.
it was valuable though to learn how to lose.
Hmm.
It was great to learn how to lose so early. And if I went into it that first year and we won the next year and the next year, I
Yeah.
feel like it was rewarding when we lost every year until 2019 is when we won the championship. But
Yes.
it made it feel special. But at the same time, the memories from those other years are still in my mind just as significant. Like
Hmm.
I have very fond memories from the year I spent with you guys to the year after to my last season there to the year we won it. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, yeah, you want to win the championship and everything and you're prepared, you want to win and everything like that, but just those memories with the guys and seeing everything that throughout the whole year that you're in it with them, it's that stuff's really special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I couldn't tell you the record of any year I played baseball.
Yeah.
But I
Kind of
can tell
forget.
you,
Yeah.
I could tell you an hour-long story about, a bus trip
Yep.
and just rain delays. Like, you had to go through those too. Just
Yeah.
sitting in the locker room during rain delays and, you know, Wally making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like,
Yeah, and the fun thing back then was that it was more of card games being played, and it was more of just discussions. There
Yes.
wasn't as much with the phones as there is now. And nowadays, I guess a lot of guys are more, just
Yeah.
on their own devices and everything. It was a little bit different as you're in the clubhouse, and then over the
Hmm.
years, you see the differences a little bit. But I know, I remember, I got to say, I remember Vine was very popular that year,
Dude,
and everyone was
Vine
making
was
fun.
it. Yeah,
If you ever
Vine
find those
was
videos,
it.
let me know because there are some gems of videos that I know were made during that season that I remember, and
Yeah.
the app got deleted. All the data, everything was gone. So I don't know
Yeah.
if anything's out there.
That was one of the
Man,
toughest things. It's like, I think Instagram came out in 2012. It's like,
yeah,
we played together in 2013. So people weren't snapping everything. Like,
right,
everything wasn't publicized as much or as frequent as it is today. Like, things were happening because it was new, so people were on. But
yeah,
you know, I I say it a lot is that I don't have a lot of my professional career documented
Right.
on Instagram because it's from 2008 to 2013 to 14.
Right. Man,
That was
it's
really
crazy.
it. And
Yeah.
now in 1 month you can put up more content than I had in, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, just
Um,
recording some of these college games or any like I mic'd myself up in while playing college club ball. I have a lot of content of that just for a few
that was
years,
awesome.
and guys who have played even in the big leagues much earlier on before a lot of this was documented don't have some of that kind of stuff or triple A or double A. It's wild.
I thought that was so cool to see you mic'd up, like, if you're on the mound,
Yep, yep,
You're like, "Where was
yeah.
that pitch?"
Throwing a solid 58 miles an hour. Yeah.
You're like, "Whew,
Yeah.
throwing heat."
Oh man, nah.
That
That's
is
great. It was
yeah.
all good stuff though. It's fun.
So, like,
Gotta love it.
what's one piece of advice that it's kinda deep, but
Yeah.
what's one piece of advice knowing what you know today that you would give to your younger self?
Yeah. I'd say I would definitely tell my younger self, especially when I was in more of those challenging moments, I would tell myself to just remember that it's temporary. Remember that this isn't a permanent thing.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to be in this type of situation for a long time, even though it feels like it's very important. It's magnified. It's magnified during that moment, but it's not. It's going to be something that'll set you up for a lot more success later on. Those challenging moments, especially if there are kids out there who are dealing with an injury or dealing with a toxic situation, it's not going to be your whole life that you're dealing with that situation. It'll end at some point, and then you got to learn from it. So I'd say just that those challenging moments aren't permanent; they're temporary. You learn from it, but what's important is how you bounce back from it. That bounce back ability. You deal with those down moments, but then you got to bounce back right away. Just like you guys had a tough game, or you went 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts or whatever, and you got to bounce back the next day. You have to flush it and forget about it, move on. And that's similar to what I would tell my younger self is, not be as hard on myself, flush it, move on. It's a temporary situation, and then you'll bounce back the next day or soon after. So that's what I'd probably say. There's so much I would tell myself,
Yeah.
but I think it's just thinking back to what I didn't know back then. We kind of talked about this before. You really don't know what you don't know. Like there are moments
Yeah.
when you might think you know a lot, but there are a lot of things that you're oblivious to. There are a lot you don't know the things that you don't know. There's so many other things that you can learn and that you will learn as time goes on, and you just got to be a lifelong learner.
Hindsight is an amazing thing.
Yeah,
It really is. And that's great advice because that's something I would have gave myself
yeah,
as well. I think you can get so caught up in the moment. And one bad week, as you know this, one bad week in baseball feels like a bad month. 2 bad weeks feels like you should be packing your bags.
yeah,
When
yeah.
really most of it's just in your mind of, hey, you're stressing about tomorrow's at bats that aren't even here yet
Right,
because you
right.
did bad yesterday.
Yeah,
None of that
y-
matters. Like, flush it. Baseball memory. Flush it. Forget about it. Just tomorrow is tomorrow.
mhm.
And then
Yeah,
soon it will be yesterday.
yeah,
That's one thing that now baseball has taught me, 12 years after I'm done playing
right.
is you got to flush it. You got to let it go.
Yeah.
Um, just be
A lot
ready.
of a lot of those things aren't as important as you once thought they were. I feel like you have to have the memory of a goldfish, forget it pretty
Hmm.
quickly, and a lot of times you think those situations are way more important, and it's going to determine your whole life. Like everything, your whole life revolves around this one game that didn't go your way. And you get older, you realize, man, I put that kind of pressure on myself and expectations, those false expectations on myself for no reason. And it's part of life. You learn all that stuff, and I think it's I love that I learned that at a younger age. I guess sometimes people take a long time to learn this. Sometimes the people in their middle age or later in their life still haven't learned it yet,
Yeah.
and they keep going through that and are in that cycle. But
Yeah.
reflecting on that's important.
Yeah. No, hands down. It is.
Definitely.
And like with you giving yourself some of that advice, it's always good to reflect. Some people don't take that minute to reflect. What's it what's it like, because obviously that's something you can carry with you in your daily experience.
Yeah.
What's it like going into to speak to schools and large audiences about your experience?
Yeah, it's pretty wild because, like I said before, I wasn't the most outgoing person when I was younger. So it's kind of weird. I was like, I never thought of myself as someone who'd be really publicly speaking or talking in front of a ton of people. But then at the same time, I went into media. So what was I thinking? I go into the career that you put a microphone in front of your face for. So that probably was, that wasn't the smartest idea. But I'd say it's special because those you kind of get in a way you remember what it was like to be in their shoes because
Mhm.
I'm talking to some kids who were my age back when I first started playing, or they were my age when I first started getting involved at the professional level as a bat boy. So you kind of get tossed back a little bit of a flashback into those moments when things are really starting to just come alive for me in the game of baseball, and you remember those moments of the excitement, the curiosity
Yeah.
that really was just bloomed. So I just think about that and how meaningful it is. So I want to just, especially on those visits, I'm going on one in a couple weeks at a school in Pennsylvania, and I feel like
Mm.
it's 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 something where you wanna just appreciate that moment and that opportunity because you never know what kinda impact you're gonna leave, and I remember to this day, I remember some of the visits that I had when I was growing up in elementary school, and I think back to some of those moments. I remember it, and I wanna make sure that
Yeah.
I'm doing things the right way, so maybe some of these kids will remember a sentence or 2 that I said, maybe something will stick with them, and maybe they'll get a book and they'll have it in their house for years to come, and maybe they'll look back on that and remember that this was a nice experience. I learned some things, and maybe it can inspire them a little bit. And maybe just be something positive because you never know what people are going through as well. Some
Yeah.
people, sometimes schools, their only time where they actually do have some peace in their life. You know, you never know what's going on at someone's home. So I feel like if I could just be a little bit of an inspiration to them for however long I'm with them, then it's a win, and it's definitely an experience that I appreciate.
I was talking to someone about that the other day, that
Yeah.
someone's going through one of three things. Either they're about to go into a life-changing event, they're going through a life-changing event, or they just got out of one.
Mm,
So it's kind of that pursuit when you're dealing with people on a daily basis to do your best to try to read their energy so you're not, coming off the wrong way, because you never know the information people get. And I used to have to deal with that when I had an AAU facility.
yeah.
You have 150 kids type of
Right.
thing, and you have ten teams. You don't know what that kid went through on the ride there. You don't know if
Right.
they had to, listen to their parents go after it. You try to be mindful of that situation, that you could be the person that's bringing peace and strength that particular day with the words that you serve up.
Exactly. You never know. You never know what someone's going through, and even if I'm not going through the most exciting thing at the moment, even if I'm dealing with some things that I'm thinking about and kind of throwing me off my game, I still have to remember that I'm not going to impact somebody in a negative way because of something I'm dealing with. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you're putting that on the side to make sure that you're present for the moment, present for the person in front of you, and making sure that you're not letting your current situation that's negative impact them. It's not
Yeah.
their fault. And I feel like some people do that sometimes. They're having a bad day and they let that impact everybody else around them. And
You
it's
can
something.
see it. You can
y-
see it on certain people that
Oh yeah,
that you can generally understand. We just, even joking around, we talk about it at work, like, don't bring your home life to work, don't bring your work life home.
yeah,
Keep that balance. Keep
yeah.
the balance. It's a big thing. It's a big thing to be able to judge whatever room you're standing in. Does that determine, because you might speak to an elementary school one day, a high school the next day. How uh, do you have a method to kind of differentiate the information that you pass off talking to the 10-year-old version of you in
Mhm.
comparison to the 17, 18-year-old high school version of you?
Right, right. Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a process that I have to continue to really just feel out as I go along. I think talking to even teachers or talking to people who maybe have some of those younger kids is a smart thing to do so that I kind of get a better feel for the kind of level that they're at when it comes to understanding things because that's tricky. I try to think back to when I was a certain age, and that kind of helps in a way because I remember what I was reading during that time period. What was I reading during 5th grade? Was I how mature was I? How what was my development like? I try to look at things in that way, because you think 5th grade, man, that's young, but at the same time, I'm like, that's when I became a bat boy. So like, I knew what was happening. So I try to like
Yeah.
piece it together that way too sometimes. But I kind of have a
Yep.
structure now where I use the children's books for the elementary school, and then I use a new book. I'll be using a new book that I'm publishing. It's more of a guide, like a short guide for leader to try to create these young leaders and a winning mindset and mentality. My professor's helping me out with that. And that's something that I'll be using for more of the middle school kids. So then the ones who are
Okay.
in 6th, 7th, 8th grade around there can I can relate to them a little bit more with this kind of material, stuff that I really wouldn't talk about with kids who are in kindergarten. And
Yeah.
then that's good for the youth and even high school kids. So I'm kind of blocking it off in that way where I know the kind of material I'm going to touch on with the different age groups. And that was definitely a question in the beginning when I first started doing this was how do I, is there a gap here? Is there the children's books, I don't know if that'll work well with 8th graders because they're a little bit older. So we're gonna have to fill the gap with something else, and that's the newest project I'm working on. There's always something in the works. There's always
There is if you're consistently growing and trying to be a little bit better and achieve a little bit more, there's
yeah,
always going to be growth, and you're always going to be the new guy in that next room.
right, right, absolutely. You
Like we
always got
talked
to
about
grow.
earlier with a coach, you could be that coach for 20 years in the same room.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you're not growing, I'd rather be the new guy in that next room than the guy stuck in a certain area in a certain mindset. And then
Yeah,
what happens is you start seeing people like yourself who might be a little bit younger that might be years ahead. I couldn't imagine when I put it into context, it's got to be tough as a high school coach to have you walk in and be like, damn it, this dude's been around like 1,000 professional baseball players. I can't
yeah,
say anything
yeah, yeah.
around him.
No, there might have been a little bit of intimidation. That they might have been like trying to silence Billy. You got
Yeah,
to
I know.
silence Billy, but can't let him speak up. It's like someone who's got a lot of the answers, but we can't let him expose us for
I
who we
was
truly are.
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah,
Because when you were talking about you going through your experiences, and
yeah,
it was kind of mind blowing to hear that you had gone through kind of a crossroad with
yeah,
baseball at a certain point, and I'm like, but he's Billy the Bat Boy. Like, how could there be an issue with baseball with the baseball guy? And then I started to think, eventually you're gonna walk into a room where you're aware enough of yourself, the information you have. And this is how I feel about baseball.
hmm
I think it can be taught so many different ways,
hmm
right? Kevin Youkilis used to hit up here. Ricky Weeks used to hit down here. It's unbelievable the depth of baseball, but there
right,
are right and wrongs, and
yeah,
there are right ways to talk to people in wrong ways to teach people.
right,
So that's what I started thinking about because I tried to joke with it. I'm like, how is Billy running into problems?
yeah, yeah,
And I was like, he probably got into a room where he knew more than the adults and the coaches,
yeah,
and that was an ego hit for them
yeah, yeah,
rather than, a positive experience. What I would have done naturally if knowing your baseball experience, pull you into the room and talk to you
yeah,
to see, hey,
absolutely.
I mean, you should be spending one-on-one time with your players anyways,
hmm
but it wouldn't take someone long. It would take 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes, but I'm being generous. It would take someone 5 minutes to sit down and say, what would you want from this year as a player on this team, someone who knows everyone, a leader? What are some of the outcomes and things that you would want to see in this ball club? What do you think we could be doing better? I would you got to be humble enough to ask that question. And I think a lot of coaches that have egos, they don't want to ask that question because it makes it look like they have a lack of direction.
Right. Right.
Rather than sometimes the best leadership comes with, I have it at work, open door policy. Whether
Yeah.
I like it or not, sometimes it's not always the best, but to keep the door open and say, I am always here, even if you have a problem with me or other people, open door policy.
Right. No, I love it. I think a lot of it though is rooted in insecurity. Some people
Yeah.
are just insecure. These leaders somehow they wind up in these positions, and they have this ideology and this type of thought process of how they want to go about things, and they don't want to be threatened by anything. They don't want to be told another way to do it, and they're kind of threatened. It was funny. We even offered. There was a time period where we were like, we got access to professional players. We could have one of these guys come down here, pay him a little bit to help us out with the practice or something. Just give us some other types of drills or just change it up a little bit. And it was just not of interest. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like there were so many opportunities, and I ended up having a great coach my last year in high school who, was with us, and he was more receptive to everything. But the problem was that it was COVID. So it was during COVID. My season was canceled that year. So it was the cap to cap it off, to cap off that high school experience. We had COVID, but you learn from it, like I said, and you just continue to improve, and you just have a better understanding though of how people are, how people operate, and who you want to work for, who you want to work with, who you want to associate with. It goes the same for bosses in any
Hmm.
industry. There are people
Yeah,
like that too. People who have
absolutely.
that kind of ego or mentality. You don't want to work for a lot of these kinds of people, and you got to have a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. Because if you
Yeah.
have a fixed mindset, you're done learning, you're done with anything, any other opinion. Like you don't want to hear anything from anybody. You're so focused on what you say is how we're going to do it only. You got to be receptive to improving and hearing other ways to efficiently get something done. Because
And everything's
sometimes,
changing so fast.
yeah, there's so
Everything's
much.
changing so fast, especially now. I think what a lot of people who aspire to move up, totally fair, right? Do
Yeah.
your thing, want to move up. But I think a lot of them are kind of stuck on the simple fact of, well, I moved up because I'm good or I'm better than you.
Mhm.
Don't like People don't forget that moving up is also part of like social skills,
Yeah.
understanding. Are you a leader? So my senior year, this is one thing I loved about my high school coach, Bill Maloney, my senior year. So when my junior year finished, I had Coach Foraker. He was moving on, he was retiring. And what he did is he announced me as the sole team captain for my senior year. He told the new coach that was, this is Chris. Now, luckily, the new coach had me in junior high school. He was the gym teacher. He knew all of my brothers, my family. Um, so there was no introduction needed there.
Yeah.
But he pulled me into the office and he had told me, hey, you've been named the solo captain of the team. Is that how you want to keep it? And I said, no. I was like, I don't. He's like, who do you see? What do you see? And that was one thing that, because I had him when I was 13 and 14,
Mm.
you're not considering yourself an adult then.
Mhm.
But as an 18-year-old, the respect level I had of him talking to me like a man of, okay, how many captains do you want? Who do you want to name captains and why?
Right.
And I chose my cousin who was unbelievable, well respected by everyone. He was the starting pitcher. He ended up going, I think 4 or 5-0 in the high school
Wow.
season. And then I chose one of the leaders of the football team who also played baseball, unbelievable personality.
Yeah.
And I knew that the three of us being captains was going to create something special our senior year.
Mhm.
And I look back on that and I'm like, I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah.
Because when
No.
people were looking at me in an uncertain time of, dude, we got a new coach in our senior year. Is he going to talk to colleges for us?
Mhm. Right.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I just knew that that was going to be the right decision in the long run.
Definitely. That's a team first mentality too. You want to include those other guys in leadership roles. within your team, and that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. You want to have teammates who are unselfish, who want to see each other do well and everything, and that's what we need to see more of. A lot of
Yeah.
kids nowadays too are a lot about their personal stats and what they can do, what their numbers say, and all of that. And really, you want to, of course, you want to do well and you want to help your team win, but at the same time, you want to pick up your teammates. You want to try to help them get better too. It's a
Yeah.
team game. This sport is it's not an easy sport either. You have to help each other out.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I don't remember my batting averages from any of the years I played. To be honest, some of the more I don't want to say selfish teammates that you might have, I don't even remember them.
Yeah.
Like I remembered you from the Jackal season. I remember a handful of guys, but there were guys who were hyper focused on getting out of indie ball to try to
Sure.
get back to affiliate ball instead of saying, guys, this is where we are. If we all play well, if we all move together as a team, it puts us into a better situation.
Sure. It
And
helps everybody then involved. You commit
yeah,
to the team, you commit to helping each other, and then the results, they'll speak for themselves. And then ultimately, you might get an opportunity at a different level. But that's what it's all about. That's what
yeah,
it's all about. And that's what it teaches you, those kinds of life lessons that you're able to then take into the other areas of your life. Once you retire, no matter how old you are, whether you played professionally or whether you have a kid who might not have even gotten through their college career, or after high school they stopped playing, there's still a lot of those lessons you could take into a life outside of the game.
yeah,
The discipline that comes with it, the teamwork that applies to many jobs out there,
yeah,
and that's what you need to take away from it. It's
yeah.
huge.
So
Yeah.
it's funny earlier you had talked about being shy
Yeah.
and stuff like that because I see you do the interviews. I see you like you said it perfectly, and it was also something I relate myself to of like I'm shy. Put a microphone and a camera in my face. It's the same thing with me when I was talking to my wife. I was talking to Kayla about it, and she's do you like people? you know, I'm like, I like people. I just don't want to talk to everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and it's weird to be able to do this, but at least in this function, you kind of get to choose who you talk to.
Sure.
So for you, this is kind of a two-part question.
Yeah.
With you being shy, how did you work on how did you work on your public speaking? But also, what is it like to do live TV like interviews? Because I
Mhm.
can talk to you about baseball. It's comforting. This isn't
Right.
real. This
Right.
is just a conversation between me and you. Nothing else really changes. But how do you go on TV and kind of now you're doing public speaking and on TV?
Yeah.
Like you must love to put yourself through that kind of pain. But I
Yeah.
mean, now you've done great. So I mean,
Yeah.
you build familiarity and you build strength and you
Right.
gain callus on some of
Sure.
those weaker parts. But what was it like for you as you began that part of the process?
Yeah. I love the pressure, CC. I love I
Eh,
love
you
making
have
myself
to,
go through it.
dude. You have to because it's
Uh,
it's unbelievable.
it's funny because to answer the first question, really just getting comfortable with everything, I'd say the most conversations I've ever had, the longest conversations I've ever had, have been with my bathroom mirror. I've
Yeah.
spoken to myself. The amount of times I've pretty much ran through conversation to this day. I do it every day.
Hmm.
If you like have a video recording me doing it, like you think I'm a complete whack job. I'm talking to myself, and I'm pretty much just talking through situations, just talking like I can make up a situation. Like I'm literally, you know what I did today? I pretended like I was the GM of the Yankees. I pretended like I was announced the GM of the Yankees. And I go and I'm evaluating our team. I'm talking about what our first steps are going to be to fix certain things. And I'm talking to my mirror like I just am having my press conference after I was named the new GM of the team. So I'm playing out these situations before anything similar to it actually happens. Like before I go on a TV show or before I go on, say, a Fox, or I'm in that studio,
Hmm.
And yeah, you got those lights, you got those big cameras that move around, high tech, everything is, lit up bright. I've been through that before because I played it through, the preparation, the kind of how I talk to myself, how I visualize and image the situations. I think that that's played a role, even if subconsciously I kind of do it sometimes. I think I'm used to it from growing up as a baseball player. You kind of close your eyes and you think about,
Yep.
facing pitchers or facing hitters, that visualization, that imagery. My dad always told me a whole lot about that, how important it is. So that was a major thing that I always included in my preparation. But yeah, as far as it goes with just getting more comfortable, I'd say the reps obviously helped, but at the same time, I was not somebody who would just walk up to people and ask questions or talk to them. I was always kind of reserved in that way. I think when I first started interviewing players, it was very comfortable for me to do that because I was at the ballpark and I was with the guys who I knew, and it felt pretty normal and not something
Yeah.
crazy out of the ordinary. But then as you get older, you realize, oh, I'm gonna have to start doing things at a little bit of in a different way. It's not just at the
Hmm.
ballpark. Now I'm gonna be maybe on podcasts or maybe in studio in different places. One of the real nerve wracking things was I did the morning show for my high school, and you talk about high school when people make fun of each other and you got all these people who got all these opinions. I hated it. I absolutely hate. We were on live. So what we do is we're in the classroom. They're live stream. They're doing the show. I have to read these announcements that I don't want to read. Sometimes I'm doing the sports, sometimes I'm not. But the live show is broadcasted to every classroom in the school on their little TV at like 7 something in the morning. So I have to get there an hour early to do this. And there's all this pressure on me to not mess up because I know if I mess up, I'm going to hear it at lunchtime from all the kids in lunch, all my friends.
Yeah.
And the whole table is going to be getting on me for stumbling on a certain word or something. So there was definitely a lot of that I went through, and that toughens you up a little bit. But
Oh man, I don't
it's
know
a lot of
how you
torture,
pulled that
man. I,
off.
I, I could, I could tell you all these stories from high school. It's just, it was one big, kick in the, where, but you learn a lot from it. So a lot of this stuff
Wow.
now is, it's a lot easier, but I think you prepare for it. You act like everything's the same. For example, I have a video that I'm going to post probably in a couple days where I say how I treat everything the same way, whether I'm doing an interview with you right now, whether
Hmm.
I'm doing an interview with a 13-year-old kid who is starting out in this industry, whether I'm on Fox, whether I'm talking to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm trying to treat everything the same way, the same personality, the same intensity, preparation. I was thinking about this podcast that we're doing yesterday, earlier today, just thinking about a couple topics or things I would probably bring up just so
Yeah.
it's in my mind. Like, I don't want to go into something and that I think isn't as important, not prepare as much for it,
Yeah.
and then I eventually get an opportunity to go in front of this huge audience, and I think of it as something that's super special, that's so different than anything I've done before.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that situation to come up because then I'd put way more extra pressure on myself in that situation. So when I did go to Fox, I treat it the same way as anything else. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna have the adrenaline flowing a little bit more because it's a different setting. You're on TV, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's the same kind of topics and person that are really just flowing. And it's similar to probably how you were as a player. You want to treat each game the same way, whether it's a
Hmm.
regular season game, a postseason game. You can't let those big games get too special in your head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's well said. It's 100% true.
Yeah.
You always have to prepare that way. So when the game plays, you can trust what you've done. You can trust the work, the preparation, because like you said, the adrenaline's going to take over.
Yeah.
If you're playing that game, the noise is going to be there. In those instances for you, the lights are there. There's things revolving and moving, but you're so prepared
Right.
that you
Right.
can just comfortably do it rather than try to show up that day to be the person that does it.
Yeah, and in my mind too, if I'm going to bed, for example, if I'm laying in bed, I'm putting myself in a headspace where if I had to get up right now, right away, and hop on an important phone call with somebody, or all of a sudden I'm being interviewed by a local station because something just happened outside. Like there was a flood here where I live last year, and one of the news stations showed up. I think it was CBS or somebody, and they wanted to interview me for about the flood. I'm like, I get on CBS about a flood before I get on for any of the stuff I do for my career. I'm like, that's of course how it's going to work. But I need to like I
Naturally.
want to be prepared for any of those situations. So I want to be able to get up right away and be like locked in, be completely locked in with talking about whatever I need to talk about. Just be sharp.
Yeah.
And I feel like those thinking about those things prepares you,
Yeah.
and talking to yourself, talking to the mirror prepares you for those moments.
It does. It does. It's big. It's
Yeah,
big. And you've seen it too. And for yourself and for the athletes. It's every single day. It's every
yeah,
single day you're preparing for it because you never know when that chance is for
yeah,
you to, to show what you got, to be able to produce. And
right,
it stems a lot from the way you carry yourself, even in many ways how you're brought up, all those times that
yeah,
your parents had been there for you and invested in you, and you start to feel that here. And it also makes you want to put all that effort forward.
sure.
Especially with an amazing support system like you had. If you had a message for your parents that maybe they know, maybe they don't know, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna love you for that question. I mean, my mom loves hearing this stuff, but no, I think I really appreciate them for just I think the way I look at it too, I look at them as my top advisors. I look at them as my go-to people for anything. The way that I look at it, I have this board of advisors, this cabinet type thing, like a president has
Mhm.
their cabinet.
Yeah.
I feel like I have my board that I could go to. I have different people who are maybe experts in different areas who I could call up or text about a certain situation. And they're in my mind, they're the chiefs of staff. They're the top advisors that I have, and they're able to answer any of the questions that I have. So they're my go-to people. They've supported me with everything that I'm doing, and it's not an easy thing, especially like I said before. This industry is can be cutthroat. It can be a
Mhm.
difficult thing to navigate, to break through in. You might feel like one day you got an opportunity of a lifetime, which is pretty cool. Like I went to Dubai, for example, a really cool opportunity working
Yeah.
with some players who were stars of the game when I first started playing, first started watching the game. And then I come back home the next week and it's like, now what? Like, what am I going to do now? So like there are all these highs and lows that come with
Yeah.
this thing and this industry that they're always there to pretty much support me and give me some type of reassurance that hey, everything's gonna work out the way it needs to. And because I could get hard on myself too, I try to keep things light,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I'm pretty intense with the work that I do and dedicated and driven. So that could sometimes be a tough thing to deal with when not everything is always going according to plan. So they've been
Yeah.
great, and I appreciate them a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot of morality in that too. When you
Yeah,
just think about being able to trust your family because you know they're going to give you the most sound and loving advice
yeah,
rather than what might be to get ahead, to get
right,
to like, because at the end of the day, you got to be able to fall back on that. You got to be
yeah,
able to fall back and look at your body of work, knowing that you had handled it the right way.
right, right,
It
absolutely.
and it's tough. And like you said too, it can be cutthroat. You can lose your way doing this,
Yeah,
whether it's just this, whether it's live TV, whether it's the next step, whatever that might be. But you can there can be sometimes where people would choose to sell out rather than stay true to themselves. And that's what I
right,
admire most about you in all of this. It's not just your experience. I think it's your truth. I think it's
yeah,
who you are and what I've always seen, but you've always remained yourself, which is massive because you've seen athletes come and go,
yeah,
and then they're picking up their phone one day and not the next day.
right,
It tends to happen. There's plenty of people I was drafted with that as they moved up and I didn't, phone calls, they answered, and then
Mhm.
they're not answered,
Mm,
and it's like,
yeah,
okay, like you said, you create long-term relationships. You're not a prisoner of the moment, um,
right.
and that can happen, and that's one thing I respect about you. You've always kept it that way.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. That's the way I was raised, and that's the way I always felt that kind of thing where I wanted to always just be rooted and
Mhm.
grounded, and I wanted to make sure just keep in contact with people who I had a connection with,
Yeah.
people who helped me or inspired me. I love that kind of stuff, and I always tried to keep in contact. Some people they don't look at it that way. Some people just I know the game of baseball is a little bit different. There's so many players you're with every year. Like it's impossible now for me to keep in contact with it personally with every single player I ever
Yeah.
worked with, because these are 10 plus years of players. You multiply that, and some visiting players who I even got to know. There's so many. That's why
Yeah.
social media is great to see everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just those keeping those relationships, and family is obviously very important to me. I feel like some people could overlook that sometimes, and just focus strictly on their own personal endeavors, their personal success, their career all the time. But I think that the other part of that is to really be grounded and rooted in a really nice environment with people who you love, with your family and friends and everything. And it's
Yeah.
huge. It's huge. That
Yeah.
support system is really important.
It really is.
Yeah.
And do you have anything else in the works? I know you just talked about another
Yeah.
book. It's crazy to ask you, do you have anything else in the works? Because in many ways, it's like slow down.
Yeah.
But it's like, so is this your sixth book from this installment? Because I know you have Passion
Yeah.
Prevails, but
Yeah.
now you have
Yeah.
this
So
series.
it's gonna, yeah, six total with, so Passion Prevails was the first one.
Yes,
And then I have now five children's
five.
books. And then I'm working on that guide for middle school age kids. So I guess it'll be around seven if you count them up. So that's pretty crazy to think about. I it's so funny. I remember mentioning to my dad, I'm like, what do you think about children's books? My professor mentioned that to me too. I was thinking about it, and he was like, one thing at a time, one thing at a time.
Yeah,
See what, and I was like, we're gonna go for it. And then I got an illustrator who did a nice job with everything, and it worked out. And we'll see. As far as what's next, I'm kind of getting the itch to be with some sort of team again. I love the team environment. So whether that team might be with an actual organization, a baseball organization, or
hmm
whether that's with a network, I feel like at some point I'd like to get back on that and be part of something again. So, I miss those days being with the players. So maybe some sort of team environment would be fun again too, while still doing this other work.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I could definitely see you doing that, to be
We'll
honest.
see what
Like
happens. Yeah.
whether it's a clubby, whether it's someone in the social media group. I mean, you could almost wear every single hat
Yeah.
when it
That's a
comes
challenging
down to
thing.
it.
It's a blessing in a way because I know I could do different things, and if I want to get more into this area, I could do it. But at the same time, it's like, what do I pick? What do I get into? Because I feel like I've been exposed to a lot of different parts of this game and different roles that if I dedicated myself to one of those roles, I can excel in it. But I just have to pick the right one. And sometimes if you contemplate trying to pick the right thing, you're never going to pick one. You gotta just go for one of them and see where it goes.
Well, that's been one of your strengths too,
Yeah.
is you have so much experience in so many areas
Yeah.
that,
Right.
now as you age, I think that's where it kind of transitions to you being an expert in a particular area. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's a
We'll
tough
see.
problem to have.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's a tough thing, but it's a good problem, and a tough thing to navigate. But once that's all ironed out, it'll all work out well.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it. This game's great, and you meet some great people, and it's just pretty special. And
hmm
we'll see what's next. We'll see.
So where
Yeah.
can people find you? Whether it's through social media, where can they find your books?
Sure. Yeah. The website is billythebatboy.com. And then the books are all on Amazon, only available there. So if you type in Billy the Bat Boy or Billy Pinckney, it'll come up.
hmm
And then social media at Billy the Bat Boy on all platforms. If you have one of the social media apps, chances are I'm on it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about social media. You got to be active on everything. And it kills me sometimes because sometimes I want to separate the work from everything else that's going on in the world, and there's so much, there's always news and different things. Like, I need to step away from it. That's a tough thing when you're working in social media, when you're working with content, you're always going to be on there.
Yeah, yeah, hands down. That's
Can't
so
hide from
funny.
it.
It's funny that you say that, because when I started this up, everything was between the lines with Chris Curran,
Yep.
between the lines. But my Instagram still CC Coco's dad, because
Yeah.
in my world now, I've always defined myself as a baseball player until I
Right.
had my son, where it's like now people know me as Coco's dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the best title I've ever held in my
Right.
life. So it's
That's
something
awesome.
definitely to embrace. But I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad we got to sit down and talk, man.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
been
This is great.
unbelievable. I mean, I get to hear a lot of your story. I follow you on all the social medias. We text, we talk, but it's great to be able to sit down and talk about your story and then be able to share it with the people who follow.
Oh, absolutely. No, this is great. This is the kind of stuff I love, and just reconnecting and seeing the whole journey, how it all played out. It goes for anybody. You never know who you're going to impact, and a decade down the line, you can be doing something like this and having these kinds of conversations. You might not always remember those specific moments, but you'll remember how you made somebody feel. You'll
Yeah,
remember the kind of impact they had on you, and that's the kind of perspective that I like to have. You never know when the last time you're going to see somebody is, what kind of impact they're going to have on them in the long term. So
hands
that's
down.
really important. So anybody
Yeah,
listening to it, just be kind to people who you're interacting with. You never know how it's going to impact them or what they're going through.
yeah. And you
Yeah,
could be talking to them 10 to 12 years later. Yeah,
exactly. You gotta love it.
100%, man.
Good stuff.
Billy, thank you for being on, man. I appreciate you. I love you. Your
Absolutely.
family's awesome. Keep up the great work, man. Stay positive, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, man. Love you, bro. I'll
Take
talk to
care.
you soon.